Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 3-6. For this lesson, we're going to be looking at mental math strategies that we can use for multiplication.
How can you multiply mentally? Think about this question during the lesson. 3 cyclists rode their bikes the distances shown in the table. Use mental math to calculate the total distance Pam and Anna each rode. What are you asked to do? What operation will you use to solve the problem? Why? You are asked to use mental math to find the total distance Pam and Anna each rode. You will use multiplication because each total distance involves equal groups. You can use properties of operations to help multiply mentally. To find the distance Pam rode, calculate 4 times 325. Break apart 4 times 325. Which shows the correct way to use the distributive property?
Select your answer.
Use the distributive property. Multiply mentally, and then add. Pam rode 1,300 miles in 4 months. How does breaking apart a factor help you multiply 4 times 325 using mental math? What property is used in this strategy? Breaking a factor into numbers that are easier to multiply makes problems simpler to multiply mentally. The distributive property is used in this strategy. According to the commutative property of multiplication, you can multiply in any order. How is the commutative property of multiplication like the commutative property of addition? The commutative property of multiplication says you can multiply in any order, just as the commutative property of addition says you can add in any order. Find the distance Anna rode. Calculate 8 times 25. Break apart 8 times 25. Use the commutative and associative properties to multiply. Multiply mentally. Anna rode 200 miles in 8 weeks. How are the commutative and associative properties used to find how far Anna rode? The commutative property is used to change the order of the factors from 4 times 2 to 2 times 4. The associative property is used to change 2 times 4 times 25 to 2 times 4 times 25.
Now you know how to multiply mentally.
All right, now before we get into our guided practice, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our notes for this section. Now for this lesson, 3-6, mental math strategies to multiply, we're going to first take a look at the commutative property of multiplication. This tells you that you can multiply in any order and the product stays the same. So 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. 8 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 8. We're also going to look at a property called compensation. Now, compensation is when you are adjusting your numbers by picking a number that's close to it and then adjusting your answer afterwards to make a correction for that change that you made. So you can choose numbers that are close to the original number in the problem and then adjust the answer so that when you go to solve, your answer is correct. When we find a product of 4 times 325 using the distributive property. Now, first thing I could have done was I could have broken 4, I could have done the 400, and broken apart the 325 into its separate place values, so 320 and 5, and multiplied that way. So after I broke it apart, I distributed them into the different parentheses. 4 times 300 is 1200, 4 times 20 is 80, and 4 times 5 is 20. We know that 80 and 20 is 100. 100 plus 1200 is 1300. Now, another thing I could have done was I could have done 4 times 300 and then 4 times 25, because I know 4 groups of 25 is 100. And I could have done it this way. 1200 plus 100 is 1300. I still got to the same answer. Now, my next example uses compensation. So how can I find the product of 3 times 398 using compensation? So remember, with compensation, what we're doing is we're going to adjust our number in the beginning to make it easy to work with. And then we're going to adjust the answer afterwards to make sure we get back to our actual correct answer. So I know that 398 is close to 400. So I can do 3 times 400 is 1200. Now what I did here was I added 2 to the 398, right? So I did 398 plus 2, and I multiplied all of that by 3. So now I need to take that extra 2 away as many times as I added it in. Now I added it in 3 times. So since I did 400 times 3, I need to take that extra 2 times 3 away to find my actual answer. So it would be 1200 minus 6. So 2 times 3 was 6, leaves me with 1194. That would have been my actual answer. Since I added 2 extra in, I had to take those 2 extra 3 times. So I added those 2 extra in 3 times, so that's 6. I added in 6 extra to my answer. I had to take those 6 extra away so I can get back to my correct answer. Now, another example of compensation is the numbers that I gave you right here. So if I did 302 times 6. So this one is going to work a little bit differently than the other one. The one we just did on the previous page, 398, we added to it to make it 400. For 302 times 6, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some away from my actual number. So if I'm taking some out at the end, I need to put it back in. If I put in extra in the beginning, I need to take that extra back out. So remember, you're always doing the inverse to adjust for your answer. So 302 times 6, that's basically 300 plus 2 more. I know that 302 is close to 300. I'll use 300 instead and then compensate by adding it back in. So 300 times 6 is 1800, because I know 3 times 6 is 18. Now that extra 2 times 6 would have been 12. Now I need to add those 2 together. Now I have 2 partial products. So since 302 is 300 plus 2 more, first I did the 300 times 6. Then I added in the 2 times 6. Then I added the partial products to find my answer. So 1800 plus 1200 gave me 1812. So 1800 plus 12 is 1812. Now for our guided practice, it's taking us back to our first example that we talked about compensation. It said when we did 398 times 3, why did we subtract 6 from our answer during those steps? Well, because we took the 398 and made it 400. So we added 2 more. So if I added 2 extra here, I needed to take those 2 extra away as just as many times as I added it. So if I added it in 3 times more, I need to take it away 3 times. So since we used compensation and we added 2 to 398 3 times, since this amount is extra, we had to take it back out to find the correct answer. So if I put a few extra in, I need to take those few extra right back out. Now for number 2, it said use any strategy, any kind of mental math strategy to do 8 times 903. Now what I did here was I gave you 2 different ways. So one way using the distributive property, one way using compensation to show you that you can use either one and you'll still get to your correct answer. Now for 8 times 903, I broke that 903 into 900 and 3 more. So 8 times 900 and then the 8 times the 3. 8 times 9 is 72. Since it's times a group of 100, I add those 2 zeros on the end. 8 times 3 is 24. So I have 7,200 plus 24 gave me 7,224. Now I could have done the same problem using compensation. 8 times 903. Again, I'm going to say 8 is close to 9, or 903 is close to 900. So I found that 8 times 900 is equal to 7,200. Then I need to add in the part that I took out. So since I took that 3 out, I need to put it back in just as many times. So since it was done 8 times, we're going to multiply by 8. 7,200 plus 24, 7,224 is my answer there. Now the remaining questions that you guys have for your independent practice, please complete all the questions down here at the bottom of this page. This is page 103 and then the back 104 all the way to the end. So over here you can see that they broke it apart. They started to break apart 6 times 250. So they broke apart the 6 because we see that the 250 is still here on the end. So they didn't break the 250. They broke the 6 into 3 times something. So you have to figure out 3 times what is going to equal 6. Over here, the 4 times 506, they did 4 times something plus something. So how would you break apart the 506 to make it easy to do mental math? So you could break it into the hundreds and then the ones. So 500 plus 6. And then for the rest of these, you're going to write out the strategy that you're using and you're going to solve. So you're not just saying, I'm going to use the commutative property. You're going to show me how, in the space that you have, show me how you use it, show all of your work, and find your product. All right, that's all of our lesson for today. If you have any questions, 4th grade, let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.